Welcome in, Notre Dame fans, to the Notre Dame Six-Pack Show, where we take 6 topics. The guys take 6 minutes to answer each of them, and that's the show. That's the show. Looking forward to it. I am Mike Singer. I host this show, and with me on the screen is Tyler Horka and Jack Soble, our superb beat writers at Blue and Gold. Guys, I trust that you're well. Everything good on your guys' end?
Yeah, absolutely. We're both going on vacay this week, so you got to hold down the fort, Mike. But
I can do that.
this is the last few days off before a good 3-4 week grind of spring football. So that's what we're looking at this weekend.
Yep, I am. Like Ty said, are both on vacay. I am in my location right now, doing some work in the afternoon. But this show is one of the last pieces of work I'll do this week. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. Meeting up with some college friends, watching our alma mater play in the SEC tournament, and having some fun throughout the weekend. So very excited for the weekend, but also very, very excited for the show.
Yeah, lots of good stuff and all spring ball focused. Topic 6 kind of not, but yeah, loaded show, lots to discuss, folks. Please hit the thumbs up on this video, and if you're new here, subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content. All right, let's go ahead and dive into it. It's hard to when I put the text on the right side of the screen, it's hard to I don't have a ton of space here, so so that's why I'm going to kind of tell you guys what we're talking about. So non-quarterback offensive spring position battles, lots of them to discuss. So Tyler, I'll throw it over to you. What are you watching out for the most?
I mean, I'm probably looking at the offensive line just because Ashton Craig is out for the spring. Obviously, he's coming back from the knee injury. You lose Pat Coogan, you lose Rocco Spindler. You got a lot intact. I mean, you look at the tackles, and I think you're pretty much set. Emil Wagner has earned the right to start for another season. Charles Jagasaw, even though he's only started, was it 2 games in his career now? He's basically played
3.
It's 3 games in his. He's played in 3. He started 2.
Started 2. Played in 5 because garbage time against Stanford in 23. Special teams against Georgia. Yeah, you're right. Started 2. My bad.
Yeah, he started 2 games, but he's probably your left tackle. Gerby Lambert is there. I think he's going to be your number 3. Will Black comes in the summer. You're set at tackle. But the interior of that offensive line and losing the 2 guys that I mentioned, Anthony Knapp's probably got a kick inside. But do you put him at guard? Is he a center? Is somebody going to win the starting center job while Ashton Craig is out? That's a guy that everyone was so excited, coaches included, going into the 2024 season. But then he's injured for pretty much all of it. And with Pat Coogan leaving, there's a pretty big vacancy there to me. So I'm going to be looking at center. Is Anthony Knapp snapping? I know there's been some speculation about that on the board, that he kind of looks like a center, could play like a center. We'll see about that. The other options there. But then there's a guard position up for grabs too, with Rocco Spindler leaving. And you think Billy Schrauth is going to have one of those. Who's going to play at the other? I know you're pretty high on Sullivan Absher. There's some other guys in the mix for that as well. I believe some of them are hurt maybe. Is it Joe Otting who's hurt, or Chris Terek, or both of them? I need to pull up that list.
But Otting is fine. I think
okay.
We haven't heard anything about Otting. Chris Terek is hurt. I'm gonna go with Jagasaw as someone who could fill one of those guard spots, depending on what we see out of Gerby Lambert this spring. I think because I don't think we're gonna see a ton of Anthony Knapp because he's got that ankle that he injured in the Orange Bowl. So we learned, and we'll talk about this later in the show too. But we learned this week, last week I should say, that Anthony Knapp had surgery after the Orange Bowl and will miss the first part of spring ball. Maybe be limited for some of it. Billy Schrauth's also going to be limited with some ankle cleanup stuff of his own. Emil Wagner limited because of just veteran rest. So there are a lot of positions battles to see, and I'm just trying to figure out who we're actually going to see play in the spring. So no Ashton Craig. I'd like to see if Knapp, like you said, can play center, because not that I'm trying to kick Craig out of a job, but because that's just another option that you have to just find the best 5. That's what this is all about, finding the best 5. I think Jagasaw's ability to play guard or tackle. I thought he kicked butt at guard against Penn State, and it could he and Schrauth at guard together, best guard tandem in the country, like that would be fantastic. And I think we'll see Gerby Lambert get a lot of those left tackle reps with Knapp limited, with maybe Jagasaw plays one of the guard spots. I think Knapp could play guard. Absher is a guy who you mentioned. I'm high. I think we're both pretty high on him from what we've seen in limited reps. He's a guy who's played tackle. They kicked him inside the guard last year. I think he's at worst one of the first guys off the bench at a couple spots. I think, like, I'm telling you right now, we do the top 25s, like top 25 most important players in July. Like, if Anthony Knapp isn't starting, I think there's a good chance he's the backup at literally all 5 spots. And I'm telling you right now, if he's not starting and he's the backup at all 5 spots, he's on that list. Because based on history, like the first offensive lineman off the bench is probably going to play.
I don't know if they would spread him that thin, though. So, like, what if Emil Wagner got hurt? I think Gerby Lambert's coming in to play tackle before Anthony Knapp does. But what
if Gerby Lambert? I don't see any scenario Lambert does not start and Knapp also does not start.
Okay, I think that's possible. I don't know why we're penning in this Jagasaw is going to kick into guard thing, and that's going to move Lambert up, or Knapp's going to stay at left tackle, whatever it is.
We're not. I'm saying, like, maybe Knapp inside the guard if Jagasaw stays at tackle and Lambert doesn't start.
Like you were saying, there's some other guys who could start over Knapp at guard too. But, like, what I'm saying is I don't think they would spread Knapp that thin. That seems like kind of crazy to do. I don't know. I'm not an offensive line coach, but I don't see a scenario where it's like where he's not starting and any one of the 5 guys goes down and it's him. That's definitely for sure coming in.
You're just trying to figure out the best 5. I think there's a group of 6. I like Absher, but I think he's just a step below these 6. It's Jagasaw, Shrouth, Wagner. Jagasaw, Shrouth, Wagner, I think are all 3 starting no matter what. Knapp, Lambert, Craig, and one of those 3, like, are they're all 3 of them are starting caliber players, but, like, you got to send one of them to the bench, and I just don't. You just don't know which one. We're not going to find out in spring ball because not everyone's healthy.
What we do know about this offensive line game, if you want to call it that, with Joe Rudolph is, like, expect the unexpected. I would not be shocked if Anthony Knapp just gets phased out because there's so many other bodies, bigger bodies, mind you, that could play those positions. I
don't know about phased out. He's going to be a really
phased out as in that number 6 guy.
Absolutely possible. He'll be an important reserve if nothing else.
Muted Mike, first go right.
One for one.
I love what Tyler said about expecting the unexpected. That is 100% true. Who saw Anthony Knapp starting for Tosh Baker last fall? Topic number 2 here. So we talked about the non-quarterback position battles on offense that we'll see this spring. Defense, I mean, and so much of this is just like with the injuries and the modified activity and all this stuff. Like it's gonna be galore. Like, I really think it's gonna be a hodgepodge of spring ball. But what are you guys really looking forward to on defense? I'll start with you, Jack.
I think we're both probably gonna say the safety position here.
Yeah, I was gonna let you start the conversation because I did offensive line and we spent the whole 6 minutes on that. But yeah, it's safety for me. I'll let you say why first.
So we're not going to see Jalen Stroman in all of spring ball, and you look at Jalen Stroman's situation, you're thinking it's awfully similar to Rod Hurd last year. Rod Hurd was obviously out for spring ball for different reasons. He was finishing up his degree at Northwestern, but that opened the window for Adon Schuler to just absolutely blow the coaching staff away throughout the spring, summer, and fall, and like they planned on starting Rod Hurd, but Adon Schuler was like, "No, I'm the starter, and here's why," and he proved it. And the door is open for someone like Luke Talich or I'm blanking on the names, Tay Johnson, Jadon Blair, Kennedy Urlacher. Urlacher, I think, is a guy who I see as Schuler's primary backup just because I think he's a similar type of player. You want someone like Rangier in the field safety spot, whereas Schuler, Urlacher, they're kind of similar, like the heat-seeking missile type safety. But between like Talich and Tay Johnson, who no one can stop talking about, he's just one of the freakiest athletes on the team. I don't even know if he's going to stick at safety. He could play nickel. They had him playing corner late in the season because of depth, but he could play there too. Marcus Freeman said he could play wide receiver. He's just that good of an athlete. So and we got to talk about Luke Talich too, because he a stud on special teams, 6'4", rangy and fast. Like he's gonna have a chance to really make his name. And even when Stroman comes back healthy, Notre Dame loves its 3 safety personnel package, or at least it did under Al Golden. I don't see why Chris Ash wouldn't continue that because of the strength of the secondary. I think in depth it's at safety. So one of these guys who we're going to see get a ton of first team reps is going to play a lot. I'm really curious which one it is.
And I think it could be any of them, like even Jadon Blair. But I will say, when he walked by me, I think it was Sugar Bowl. He's skinny now, man. Like I don't know if he's college safety, like physically ready, but physically means a lot of different things, right? That it means the athleticism that you were talking about, and he definitely has that. So can he gain 5-10 pounds in the next 6 months? Probably possible, but then you have to like work that into playing football. He's never played at a weight that he's trying to get to. So that's interesting with him. Talich is there. Like he looks the part. I don't want to be a wide receiver running over the middle of the field with him breathing down my neck. He looks like that type of player. And then he's fast enough to take a pick 6 to the house, as we've seen as well. So I think he just has to, maybe it's a confidence piece with him, or figuring out some things that he hasn't figured out yet. He's a former walk-on. You got to remember that. But I mean, their former walk-on have stories all the time where they, by the end of their career, they're not even close to the same guy. Like he's in the middle of that transition is what I'm trying to say. Is this is the most pivotal point in his career, yes, but he's still on an arc where he's like going like kind of like Xavier Watts, right? Xavier Watts, the year before he won the Nagurski Trophy, we had no idea that was in him. I think Talich is the type of player that maybe we still don't know what he has in him. And if he taps into that, where Schuler kind of tapped into that a little earlier, right? He had only been with the program for a year, found it, and his arc is still going up too. But I'm not sure, like if Schuler was going like this, maybe Talich is going like this, and he's got to find that. So he's interesting. Blair's interesting for the reasons that I said. Urlacher, I'm kind of with you. If you put him out there with Schuler, I think you're too small at safety, and that's not going to work. But
I don't know. I don't know about small. It's not enough range. I think. Because Schuler's not small. I don't think.
I mean, he's not like the most physically imposing guy, but neither was Xavier Watts for that matter.
They're not all huge.
They're not all Kyle Hamilton, right? They're not all Luke Talich, 6'4". So I do think the range, the size, whatever you want to say, it's not there if he's in tandem with Schuler. But if he's backing up Schuler, holy cow, you got a great 2-deep there. And then I think you're going to have a great 2-deep no matter who you choose at safety, because I think the Rod Hurd example is tremendous, because if that is what Jalen Stroman is, or like if Jalen Stroman is to Rod Hurd what whoever is going to win this starting job is to what Schuler was last year, oh my gosh, dude, Rod Hurd was a tremendous backup safety. He was an awesome nickel when you put him in. Like he was the utility guy that every single secondary needs. I don't know if Stroman's going to be that, but I know he can play safety for sure. And like, maybe it's a blessing in disguise if he doesn't win this, like if he doesn't come back in the summer and in the fall and win this. Cause I think one of these guys that Notre Dame has grooming, like they're grooming at safety right now, is going to be a tremendous player, just like Adon Schuler. The odds say that one of them has to be really good, right?
Yeah, it's just a ton of talent in that room. Within the next 45 seconds, one position I'm also watching is defensive tackle room. Same. There's just a lot they need to figure out there. One wrinkle I'd like to see them kind of try in spring ball. This is a kind of an out of nowhere thing. You're not moving Bryce Young to defensive tackle. I would like to see if Bryce Young can rush from a 3 technique position on passing downs. Because his ideal weight at 6'7" is probably like 275 or something. Yeah. Having that length against a guard, say your third down rush package is Traore, Young, Heinisch, who's your best pass rushing D tackle right now, and Botello, and you got Young matched up 1-on-1 with a guard. Like no one is blocking him in that situation. I'd like to see them.
I like that too. I like that.
All right, good stuff, boys. So topic number 3 here for the Notre Dame six-pack. And folks, please hit the thumbs up on this YouTube video. Subscribe to our channel for more content. Appreciate you folks listening to the podcast version of this. Please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. So this is the most I've been in this business for over a decade now. This is the most interesting spring that I've ever seen because of the deep playoff run, a 3-man quarterback battle that returns one start. And it's like a true battle. When you go through, whether it's guys out for the spring, modified activity, individualized plans, all these things that we learned about from the press conference last week, like, you're not going to see a ton of J Love, your top 4 receivers with Greathouse phase on in the transfers. They're going to be very limited / out. Flanagan's out at tight end. Offensive line is going to look a lot different. So with that context in mind, guys, like, I'm curious, and I'll throw it to Tyler first, like, just how much these injuries are going to impact the quarterback battle. Like, they've seen Steve a lot in games and practices. Like, CJ and Kenny, really, like, what have they gotten in terms of like first team reps in practice? Like, I feel like it's mainly scout team. Like, I don't know. I'm fascinated. Tyler, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, I don't know how much it's going to affect the quarterback battle, though, because everyone's dealing with the same circumstances, right? You can take Jaden Greathouse out. Jordan Faison's going to play lacrosse. Malachi Fields isn't coming in here yet. Will Pauling is modified. That was going to be the case, like, if they would have gotten a transfer quarterback for the 3rd year in a row or in the 4th year in the last 5 seasons, that guy would have had been dealing with all of that as well. So I don't know. I think you're going to see, regardless of who these guys are throwing to, who's around them, who's blocking for them, all of those different types of things, you're going to see more, and it was good of you to bring this up, Mike, more like split reps with the ones. Like, I think all 3 of these guys are going to get reps with the ones. Now, maybe it's Steve gets 50 and Kenny gets 30 and CJ gets 20 in terms of percentages. That would obviously lend itself to Steve Angeli having more of an opportunity to show why he's the number 1 quarterback, but he's earned that. And I think it might have been you again, Mike, on the message board, or it might have been one of our many, many great subscribers. Maybe it was even Juicy J, who said, hey man, Steve Angeli has earned like the upper hand in this battle. So if it's tied, like if all these circumstances come together and the coaching staff is like, well, this kind of affected this guy because it wasn't how it's going to be in the fall, but same thing with that guy, Steve Angeli gets the upper hand. So I think regardless of the circumstances, regardless of who these guys are thrown to and what's around them, Kenny Minchie or CJ Carr is going to have to definitively beat Steve Angeli. And that's going to mean Steve Angeli's making mistakes with these guys that he's playing with in the spring. And we all know that's not his MO. Like, he's accurate. He's a good decision maker. Jack says that he's a little immobile, and that got some people fired up on the message board this week. But like, in terms of the injuries and stuff, I don't think that's the biggest impact. I think these guys are going to go into it, and it's the cliche, right? It's like, you can't control that stuff. So you got to keep playing football the way with what you got. And this is what they got for the spring.
First of all, mobility and pocket awareness, 2 different things. We'll talk more about it, more about that in the next second. If Angeli doesn't win the job, I don't think it'll be because the mobility is an issue. I think he's athletic enough, but I don't think the injuries at wide. I think that we're talking about wide receiver injuries specifically are going to impact the quarterback battle. I do think that they could very well impact the offense and its performance, no matter who wins the quarterback battle. I actually have a column on blueandgold.com coming tomorrow morning, so this is a good preview for that. You remember what a lot of the struggles, the root of a lot of the struggles that Riley Leonard had early in the season, like the chemistry with his wide receivers, it just wasn't there. Like, he was late. He wasn't like, you remember the back shoulder throw, that the third and 7, maybe like 3rd and 9, Leonard hit to Greathouse in the Penn State game. This is like late 3rd, early 4th quarter. It was like he knew exactly where Greathouse would want the ball at the end of the route. That it's at that timing and chemistry throw. They weren't getting anywhere near that kind of throw early in the season because Leonard didn't trust his guys. He was late. He wasn't making the reads he should just because he didn't have any chemistry with these guys. And while it's a little different because like Steve Angeli has thrown to Jaden Greathouse, Jordan Faison before in practice in previous years, but he hasn't to Will Pauling and Malachi Fields. CJ Carr, Kenny Minchie is kind of the same thing. I'm sure they've all gotten reps with each other, but it's hard to build that kind of chemistry in summer and fall. You need those live reps. and I don't know. I don't know if whoever wins the job is going to get enough of them with the top 4 receiving core, because Malachi Fields coming in the summer, Will Pauling very limited due to that little foot surgery that they put him under when he got here. Jaden Greathouse limited because of the playoff. Jordan Faison playing lacrosse. Like, that's your top 4 receivers that you're really not going to throw too much during the spring. So that is one of my number one concerns, at least early in the season for the offense.
I don't know if that affects the position or the quarterback battle, though.
No, it doesn't affect the battle. I'm saying, like, it could affect whoever wins it.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that. But, like, speaking specifically of the battle, I think maybe this is a good thing for the 3 guys, because it's going to I think the cream's going to rise to the top, right? Like, the best quarterback is probably going to win this thing, unless there are some biases and whatnot. We're not in on these meetings. We're not behind the doors that are closed and all of those types of things. But, like, if you're throwing to Micah Gilbert and Elijah Burris and, receivers who we're probably not going to see in the fall, the guy who's making the best passes to those guys is going to end up winning this thing. And then when you do have Malachi Fields and Jaden Greathouse and Jordan Faison in the fall, well, you hope then that's when you get that chemistry. And like you said, it's kind of hard to get, and it doesn't come overnight, Jack. And that's a scary thing for this offense. But I do think we're going to learn enough about the quarterbacks in the next 3 weeks to know, okay, this guy's got it. He's QB1, and, the other guys can fall in line.
If I may, I guess my thought about this is, you can only control what you can control thing. That's Tyler's point. I totally agree with that. But, like, you just do wonder what it means, like, because you are now throwing to people who are not your normal guys, and especially, like, you talk to about the receivers, the O-line. I mean, that second team offensive line. Like, if you're Kenny Minchie or CJ Carr, and you're getting more second team, like, your opportunities to impress the staff might be more difficult. I guess that's kind of my thought. But I think it's gonna be very difficult for the quarterbacks this spring.
I will say, if you had like a Malachi Fields and CJ Carr throws a dime to him in the spring, that helps CJ Carr a bunch, because the coaches are like, whoa, you close your eyes and you're like, I could see that throw in Coral Gables at Hard Rock Stadium, but you're not going to get any of that because Malachi Fields isn't here in the spring with the host of other guys, as we know.
I think it's kind of like all things equal with the 3 of them. I don't see, like, the injuries affecting, like, who ends up winning the job.
Let's continue this quarterback discussion. We wrote this article at Blue and Gold. You guys can find all of our full-time writers at Blue and Gold writing our post-spring quarterback pecking order. So if you're a subscriber, you saw this already, but we'll talk about it in today's show. So the post-spring quarterback pecking order. So it's not necessarily who you think is going to start against Miami. What do you think it's going to be after spring ball? And this is not something I would assume Notre Dame will release officially, but we'll give our thoughts. We'll go over to Jack.
I actually want to shout out to kind of preview the point I'm going to discuss here is, like, we in Blue and Gold Illustrated do a back of the magazine column. It's something that the late great Lou Emoji wrote during his many years on the Notre Dame beat. That's kind of relevant to the current topic of discussion. And the column this week was, like, it was about caution in crowning, like, a golden boy quarterback. I think it was, like, early Clausen years when he wrote this, and it kind of got me thinking. It's like, one of the main points he made early in the article was crowning a guy early in his Notre Dame career can be damaging to the quarterback you're crowning too, because it puts expectations way too high. So I don't want to. The moral of the story is, like, we don't want to put all the expectations on CJ Carr. Like, oh, if he's not winning the job right out of spring ball, or just winning a job this year whatsoever, like, he's not what Notre Dame thinks he is. So with that aside, I think Steve Angeli's gonna go. Steve Angeli, I think we're all in agreement, is going to be the QB1 heading out of spring ball, just because they're not really going to make those definitive changes to the depth chart over the summer. I do think that CJ Carr is going to really push the envelope and make it a compelling case to, like, maybe their reps in week 1 of fall camp are even. And I'm on record of saying I think CJ Carr is eventually going to win the job, but the column from Loose Emoji that I read in the magazine earlier today got me thinking, like, if he doesn't, it's not the end of the world for his Notre Dame career, basically.
Trust me, Jack, it won't be you that's putting too much pressure on CJ Carr. I just hope that he deletes his Twitter app during the season, or maybe he never has it on his phone at all, because if he reads any of the comments from these Notre Dame fans, heck, if he's watching this video and he starts to read some of the comments, he's going to know that everyone and their mom thinks that he's going to be the starting quarterback. Maybe not at Miami, although a lot of them want him to be, but like sometime soon for Notre Dame. That's just the narrative that's out there right now. And it's not just Jack Soble or any other media outlet besides Blue and Gold that covers Notre Dame. It's pretty much everybody. But I am not one of those guys. And there's a little live points tracker going in the comments right now, and I'm probably going to lose a lot of points because this is the contrarian opinion. This is the dissenting opinion among Notre Dame people right now, is that I think Steve Angeli is going to be the number 1 quarterback for this football team coming out of the spring, and that's going to be highly based on the experience factor. He's done a lot of these. This is CJ Carr's second, and CJ Carr just dealt with an elbow injury that we talked a lot about last week, or on a YouTube show on this channel earlier this week at the least. I think like Steve Angeli just has a little more going for him into this spring. And talk about a guy that has pressure as well. It's not more of a chip, right? It's more of a chip on the shoulder type of pressure for Steve Angeli and for Kenny Minchey for that matter as well. So I'm going completely unpopular with the opinions. And I'm going to say that Steve Angeli is number 1 coming out of the spring. Kenny Minchey is number 2, and CJ Carr is number 3. And I put this on social media this week. It's not because I don't think CJ Carr is any good. I think CJ Carr is going to start the most football games for this football program of any of these 3 guys. But if I know anything about Marcus Freeman, he's a relationship guy. And yeah, he's got a really good one with CJ Carr, and that got him here over getting him to Michigan, obviously. But I think he has a really good relationship with Steve Angeli too. And that's one that's been fostered over more time than with Carr. And he's obviously had Minchey for longer than he's had Carr as well. So just like the experience thing with Marcus Freeman, he leans into that at a lot of different positions, especially at the quarterback position. That's why he went and got 2 transfers in the last 2 off seasons. He didn't get one this year because he has Steve Angeli, I think. That's like a big part of this. If it was Kenny Minchey and CJ Carr and Blake Hebert, I think Marcus Freeman is going out and getting another transfer quarterback. I really do. Now, maybe CJ Carr competes and eventually starts over that guy in the season, but if Steve Angeli wasn't on this football team, I think Marcus Freeman would have went out and got another transfer. I really do.
It's possible, but Freeman has been on record as saying he didn't think the quarterback of the future was on the roster last year, which is why he went out and got Riley Leonard, but he does this year, and you don't really need to read between the lines too much to see what the difference is. But with the Minchey thing, like I get it. Like he's a talented guy. He's got the traits. By all accounts, an excellent locker room guy. Hartman loved him. Riley Leonard loved him. Everyone in that room thinks the world of him. But what Marcus Freeman values in players, particularly quarterbacks, is that competitiveness, that it factor. We know Steve Angeli has it. Steve Angeli is crazy competitive. CJ Carr, by all accounts, has it. We don't really know if Kenny Minchey has that.
That's a good point.
And I think I don't think Marcus Freeman is going to start someone at quarterback who doesn't have that competitiveness, that it factor. That I think is a big reason he's kind of been the third wheel in this discussion. Obviously, the athletic traits are there, and you can become you can kind of develop that over time. So I'm not completely counting him out, but I think Angeli and Carr have what it takes to be the starting quarterback at Notre Dame. I'm not positive Minchey does.
Jack, did you give your order?
What?
Did you give your pecking order?
Oh yeah, and Angeli, Carr, Angeli very close at number 1, Carr number 2, Minchey number 3.
Yeah, I'm the same with that. Yeah, much more, quarterback discussions to have throughout the next few months. So injury report, Sting guys. So I mean, we've discussed this And point 3 about like how these injuries will impact the quarterback battle or may not. But I'm not able to pop it on the screen just based on how we're doing this show or how I'm producing this, guys. But I maybe 1 or 2, but like the biggest guy who's out for the spring or is limited, what like impact or what's the biggest impact, from a negative standpoint, someone you would really like to see out there? Tyler?
So I'll go quickly and just kind of throw a few names out. It's segmented into these groups that Rob Hunt gave us about a week ago now. The guys who are out, the guys who have modified activity, and then the guys who are on, what did he call them? Individualized plans. Basically, the returning guys.
Veteran rest. Yep.
Yeah, veteran rest. What do they call that in the NBA?
Load management. Great one.
Load management. Yep. That's what this is, right? Okay. So the guys who are out, a lot of them, we knew that they were going to be out. I'll just mention Jalen Stroman. But again, I think that could be a blessing in disguise because if he was here and playing, then you learn less what Jadon Blair is or Tay Johnson or Luke Talich and those guys. So blessing in disguise. But when you go out and get a guy from Virginia Tech who started all these football games and you think that he's going to be your starter, you kind of want to see him suiting up. So that stinks. The little rundown bar says sting. That's a little bit of a sting. The modified activity guys, I think Anthony Knapp is really the only one that sticks out to me there because you know what you have in Billy Schrauth. Get him healthy because on a great ankle, I think he's a really great guard. So get him healthy. I would like to have Knapp in there because we talked about it in the very first segment of this show. Who are the best 5 offensive linemen? Is Anthony Knapp one of them? Is he that 6th guy? Is he a tackle? Is he a guard? Is he a center? He's an enigma. And you learn less about like where you can stencil him in actually because he's on one of those modified plans. So that stings a little bit as well. And then the guys who are veteran resting, load managing, whatever you want to call it. I mean, pick of the litter there, dude. Like these are all guys that Notre Dame's not playing against Ohio State in the national championship without them. So, I mean, you could pick any one of them. Bryce Young, Emil Wagner, Jalen Sneed, Don Schuler, Leonard Moore, Jeremiah Love, Jaden Greathouse, Christian Gray, Drake Bowen, Josh Burnham. You'd love to see all of those guys. It's things that they're all not going to be full participants. But I wrote a column at blueandgold.com. It's spring ball, man. Like that list of guys, you know exactly who they are. It stings a little bit because every single time it's like Benjamin Morrison when we got to watch him in spring ball and then he goes out. It's like that just sucks because he's an NFL guy and you don't get to see NFL guys anymore. An NFL guy play in spring practice. There's a lot of NFL guys in the list that I just named. Sucks not to see him. I guess I'll just cherry pick Jeremiah Love because like he's Jeremiah Love. But going back to that other list, like I think Anthony Knapp because I just want to see this offensive line at full strength. And who are these 5 guys going to be? And because some of them are out, you kind of have to use your imagination. And I guess that's what spring ball is about, but you'd rather see it, right?
Yeah, the load management guys, honestly, I didn't even think were part of this discussion because, that's part of the team's plan. They got the reps in practice that they needed during the playoff run. I mean, they got a whole bunch of practices to improve and also play for national championship. And if you want to completely, flawless injury report in spring ball, the easy solution is not to play for a national championship. Problem solved.
Yeah, that's what my column was. I totally agree.
But as far as the injuries, I agree with Knapp because I think if he misses most of spring ball again, like he's a modified activity guy. Like we don't know exactly how much he's going to do, but he kind of misses an opportunity to rep at center because Ashton Craig's not going to be there, and B just to build on the freshman year because that with an offensive lineman who plays as a freshman, you expect him to struggle as a freshman, which Knapp did a fair amount, but he also held his own a fair amount. But you expect that leap to be between the freshman and sophomore year with a full year in the weight room and on the practice field. I hope those reps don't affect him too much because I still think he's going to be an NFL caliber offensive lineman. We obviously knew about Boubacar Traore for a while, but his injury was the toughest for me just because I think like he is a superstar in the making, and you really just have to hope he develops on the same track because if he does, I think he's a first round caliber edge rusher. He has the length, he has the speed, the ability to bend the edge, the explosiveness. The explosiveness is what you most worry about coming off the knee injury. Other injuries, Will Pauling, I think, really stings because he had an opportunity with Faison not there, with Greathouse limited, to get a lot of those reps at slot and field receiver and build chemistry with whoever the quarterback's going to be. That I think Strowman's injury hurts his chances to start, but I think Notre Dame's fine in regards to that, because obviously Notre Dame knows what it has in him and it just wants to get him healthy. Pauling, because of his surgery, it feels like a big for him and Nat more than anyone else. It feels like a big missed opportunity.
Yeah, Pauling was he's on the modified activity.
Yeah,
so.
they had like a physical when he came in, and they found some like foot injury that they needed to clean up.
I'm on record saying, like, well, do you think he's going to play more field or slot? I'm not. He could do either, right?
I believe I believe he's kind of like Faison, where he can do either. I think like I would like to see them experiment with moving Jayden Greathouse around a little bit, so they can play like kind of rotate Greathouse, Faison, Pauling in and out of the slot, and have those guys play slot and field, because I Mike Denbrock loves moving wide receivers inside outside. I like that idea.
He's an 800-yard guy a couple seasons ago at Wisconsin, man, and 800-yard guys don't grow on trees at Notre Dame, so I would have liked to see him full go.
Yep, love that. And Notre Dame definitely thinks that with Mike Brown as the receivers coach again, which obviously the coach when he had that season, Notre Dame thinks he can get back to that. So last but not least is Mike Martin. So when you guys got all these injury updates from Notre Dame last week, that was from Rob Hunt, the head athletic trainer. Well, you guys also got to talk to the new general manager, Mike Martin, who came from the Detroit Lions. So, Jack, what did you think about Mike Martin? What were your thoughts about him?
Really good dude, first of all. Very humble, down to earth. He fully understands and isn't hiding from the fact that he has a learning curve in this new job, because he pretty much admitted he has little experience actually recruiting, which is not going to be the crux of his job. He's going to be an evaluator first and foremost, but he'll still have to recruit a little bit. Like, he recruited in the NFL with undrafted free agents and NFL free agents, but that's not his bag. He'll rely on his staff a lot for that. He still needs to adjust to, like, scouting high school kids is a different game than scouting college kids. So I appreciated how open he was about that. I thought very very forward thinking is a big thing. Like, he talked about his experience in analytics, and like, he is in his background in analytics and how much they talk about that in sports science with Mike Martin in the fold. Like, it's indicative of how much Marcus Freeman knows kind of Notre Dame's natural limitations. If you want to compete with the Georgias and Ohio States of the world, you're never going to recruit as well as they do consistently, the 5 stars. You need every extra edge you can get, and I think Freeman really embraces that, and Mike Martin does too. I like the first impression.
Yeah, very candid. It's shocking almost, because this is a guy who, like, the general manager position, we still don't really know exactly what it is in college football. It could be one thing at one program and a totally different thing at another. He doesn't strike me as Chad Bowden type, which is interesting, because that's what Notre Dame leaned into, named him the general manager coming up on a year ago. And Chad Bowden's the guy jumping around in leprechaun suits and doing all this recruiting stuff, right? Like, the relations with high school kids and their families. Mike Martin is like, he struck me as NFL, and that's all he's ever known for 2.5 decades was Detroit Lions, Houston Texans, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like, that's what he was. Now, Notre Dame probably operates like an NFL program as much as any. Like, the big blue bloods do that. Ohio State, those programs are doing that. But anytime you hear a guy who has this much power say that he doesn't really know what he's doing, there's some shock value in that. And that's why I think you're right to say you appreciate the candid nature of that. But it might also scare you, because Chad Bowden has been, I don't want to make this all about him, but he's been a college guy his whole career. He's come up with Marcus Freeman, and now he's at USC, and You see what they're doing on the recruiting trail right now. It's not to say Notre Dame won't do that in the next 6 months, however many months, 9 months until you got to sign a class. But I do think there needs to be a sense of urgency. And it's not to say Mike Martin can't have a sense of urgency. I think he has that by nature. Again, the NFL's cutthroat, man. And I think it's awesome that that's where his experience comes from. But now he's got to learn where to channel that urgency. And like Greg Wasserman says in the chat here, like evaluating wide receivers, defensive tackles, I think Mike Martin's got to get comfortable to a point of talking to these assistant coaches and saying, hey, what are we doing to make this position group better? Because right now I'm not seeing it. Maybe we need to do this differently and that differently. I don't know if Mike Martin is a guy at Notre Dame that feels comfortable doing that right now. He's very much, hey, I don't want to get in the way. But when push comes to shove, he's got to do some pushing and some shoving, because the college football is cutthroat too, just like the NFL. And he's got to get into a comfortable place where he's the one cutting the edge. He's got to be the cutting edge guy. I think that's where this GM thing in college football is going. And I think he will get there. But the sooner the better, for sure, for Notre Dame.
I think his NFL experience is really going to help Notre Dame in one area in particular, in the revenue sharing / it's kind of a de facto salary cap. He had one quote like, up and coming in here in the near future, there will be revenue sharing, which is, I don't want to call it a cap, but there's some similarities where players obviously getting paid for name, image, and likeness. There's some things that need to be managed there. I think some of my experiences and past experience helped me and set me well up for that job. The thing with this is like in the NFL, when you're evaluating free agents, it's not like, let's get all the good players we possibly can. It's which good players are going to help us at a cost that works for us. And that's kind of what you're doing now in recruiting. Like, it's not even on the high school recruiting beat. It's like, it's not just the quantity of 4 stars you can get. It's like, which 4 stars are going to be worth it to splurge on. And that's something that he's going to have to figure out. And I think the NFL experience helps in terms of like making some of those decisions. And then like, yeah, if you're Notre Dame, you need to be better at evaluating than the teams you're competing with, because the teams you're competing with have advantages in terms of the quantity of players they can recruit and the pedigree of players they're bringing in. So you need to be better, not as good, better than them at talent evaluation and utilizing these analytics and sports science to gain edges on and off the field. And I think Mike Martin understands that as well as Marcus Freeman does, which is why I think he's going to be successful at Notre Dame.
So when he's with the Detroit Lions, he's trying to beat 31 other teams, right? Like he's just like, how can we be better than Green Bay and Chicago and everyone else? It's basically the same thing at Notre Dame. How can we be better than the 30 teams that are in the Big Ten and the SEC? That's what he needs to be focused on. And I think it helps. Like you said, it translates for sure.
Good stuff today, boys. That's the Notre Dame 6-pack. Did we lock in next Tuesday for this? Move it up a day?
I think so.
Yes, that's what we discussed.
Yeah, tentative. You guys know me. I move things around. So I think spring ball is the next day. So I'm sure we'll have something new to talk about before then. But if not, we're going to be previewing some more spring ball and talking about whatever else is going on in the world of Notre Dame athletics. Folks, if you've not done so yet, please hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the channel for more content. If you're just tuning in, rewind, watch from the beginning. Great stuff, as always, from our beat writers, Jack Soble and Tyler Horka. If you watch the whole show and you need some more Notre Dame fix, go to blueandgold.com. Definitely the place to be. See what offers we have to get you signed up over on our website. Appreciate you all for watching. Hit that thumbs up. And as always, we will catch you next time.